All right, it is 6:02. We're going to start the Finance Committee meeting of February 28th, 2023. We're continuing budget hearings tonight. We have a quorum present, and we have Karen Herron, who's joining us through a Teams meeting. Karen Gilman cannot be with us tonight, so we're going to start. With order. We're going to go in tonight: Rec Commission, Historical, COA, Police, and DPW. So we'll start with Rec, please.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Peter Ferrier, Director of Recreation Commission, along with.
Teresa McNulty, Secretary.
Have you been presented our fiscal year 2024, or I have copies here?
We have
I know
not.
that was
So
on
if you
the-
have, yeah, I don't know. If you have copies, that would be great.
Yep. Teresa, your copies might be better than mine.
I only have the one.
Oh, okay.
This is fine.
It's fine if you can see, like me. Yeah, thank you. Yep. I'm Peter, by the way. George. George, how you doing? Nice to meet you. So we just wanted to loosely put together some ideas and thoughts that we've been working on over the years with regards to how we can continue to move the rec forward. And we think that in order to provide the town what it's looking for from an engaged recreation commission, one of the more important things that we would need would be a rec director, part-time, to start. And that person would be in charge of pulling together all of the events that we think it would be beneficial for the townspeople and so forth. We're a volunteer group who does what we can, but I believe we think, and some of the research shows the town is looking for more community events, and we think that this is a good springboard to help build upon that.
One of the most important things a recreation director would be doing would be collaborating with all the youth sports, trying to update our website, trying to get the community more engaged, coming up with some programs and services that maybe aren't meeting the need, aren't currently available through, say, Little Vikings or other programs that currently exist in the community. And also going out, looking for funding, researching different grants and opportunities for continued development of our facilities and things like that, collaborating with all the youth sports, collaborating with us, and just trying to streamline things, keep track of the budget, attend all of our meetings, and keep us updated on things that are going on, liaise with the DPW and with Board of Selectmen, things like that, so that we're all on the same page and we have a clear communication, and we can have opportunities for the town to have different events, different programs, and different services than we currently have.
Do you know what was spent this past year from what was budgeted last year, where it was spent?
So last I knew, we had only spent, I think, about $500 out of our budgeted funds, but that's because there's a lot of, we're waiting on certain things to find out if ARPA is going to be covering certain things or not, but we've recently allocated further funds without the understanding when ARPA is going to vote or when we're going to have an idea. We have to move forward with certain projects. So I know we've allocated approximately $20,000 to be spent for the basketball courts, which should be, it's spent. It might just not show spent.
So some of these things on here, like Summer Basketball League, does that happen currently, or is that new?
So it,
New.
well, it would be a redux because it actually did happen, but then the courts became unplayable, so the program kind of was defunct. So hopefully, along with the high school basketball coaches, we'd be able to develop an in-town summer program for that.
It used to be extremely popular, it was really well attended, and then once, the kids are still down there. They're just not in any cohesive way using the facilities, so.
Did you at one point run it?
Yeah,
Or not run it, but you
John
were.
Shea and myself, yeah. So just if I can kind of go off of what PJ and Teresa have done. So I've sat on with the rec department for about 2.5 years now, and as PJ said, the frustration level is that they don't have anybody at the helm. You know, nobody that can work directly, whether it be with DPW, fire, police, or the rec department themselves. And we've done quite a bit. We had a summer concert a couple years ago. We've tested the waters in a lot of area. We hired Jen Poole with a stipend of like, I don't know, $500 or something. She gathered a lot of material the first year we got in there from the sports programs to find out what kind of insurance they have and whatnot. But in speaking with the rec, as the liaison for the Board of Selectmen and DPW, our biggest concern right now is that Church Street facility. You know, we've allocated over $100,000 in the coming months to redo that whole place. And, you know, we're concerned that it won't be watched over or looked after the way it needs to be, and it won't be utilized the way it needs to be without somebody that could really take charge of that facility. And, you know, we believe a director could do that. Now, John, as Shay, as well as a couple others, went through the list of items that you see there that would incorporate on a very small scale, actually, he's not here, John, so I'm gonna throw him under the bus a little bit. Me and John Haynes here were kind of laughing about it because he really underestimated some of the ability that I think those courts would have as far as generating revenue going forward, you know. And as PJ said, they've got 2 or 3 items in front of Opera right now, one being a large movie theater.
Which we'd like to try to rent out to various
Right.
groups in town to allow
Absolutely,
them to
yeah.
actually be able to host their own events.
Yep. So I think that the best part of this is, you know, the problem really was we've had a revolving door, or we didn't have anybody in the seat that Charlie's in right now as the town administrator. And, you know, we've given him a little bit of time to get his feet wet. And I think at this point, in the conversations I've had with him, even as up to today, is, you know, he needs to help them get something to you that would be a definition of what this director would do. Like, what are the daily jobs that would enhance it?
Roles and
obviously
responsibilities.
Responsibilities, because it's going to change, obviously, over the course of time. But, you know, I truly feel, and I've said this from the beginning when I first took the position, that, you know, this is a commodity to the town that is, you know, is huge. And we have the ability, just like other towns, whether it be Whitman or Norwell or any of these other ones that have a very flourishing rec department, I think we can do the same things here. We just can't do it with 7 volunteers. I mean, it's impossible, you know. And I think they've worked very well. I've worked with them now for that time period. I think they've done a wonderful job, but they really need someone that kind of pulls it all together. And, you know, I think John can kind of.
Well, I would follow up on that, where I think all of us have been, at one point or another, our kids, or we've all been involved in youth athletics and youth sports and different youth organizations throughout. And what they're all struggling with as well is the ability of the volunteerism that used to keep these organizations vibrant and vital. It's really becoming a struggle for them as well, particularly some of the day-to-day management operations. So I think what is very evident is that an opportunity for partnership with those organizations, and I'm not gonna go as far as to say it will pay for, the position will pay for itself, but I think you would see very quickly that the benefit of the position and the opportunity it would provide, as well as generally, again, I don't ever want to say it's going to recoup the investment in dollars and cents, but in value to the town of East Bridgewater, I think we'd see it recoup very quickly, because these other organizations that are all in the same, every organization that I'm involved with is in the same situation, whether it be youth football, baseball, the basketball, and
Lacrosse.
even though, not just athletics.
No.
All of them are struggling for coordinators and people that are willing and able to take on the coordination and management. It used to be, that the Little League or whatever could fund a significant percentage of their operations from their snack bars. Well, that's not happening anymore because you can't get the parents to volunteer. Literally to the point where they're putting surcharges on your registrations, that if you're just willing to volunteer for one night of the season, you'll get your $100 back. And they still can't get people to. And I think we actually, to see these programs continue, we're going to, as a town, we need to identify that that's an issue. And where we're seeing vibrant communities is where they have strong recreation, town-run recreation programs. But I also think you're looking at, there's a whole other dynamic too of, this could extend to not just, we get really caught up with
Yeah.
athletics.
I'd love to see a flourishing arts program that could work under this as well, because I know that they're challenged with that as well. And I look at it as, and thank you very much, both John and Peter, it's not just Church Street, where we're gonna be investing some capital into. I think it's all of the town properties that Recreation Commission is supposed to be somewhat charged with the task of making sure that it's used for, the proper purposes. So I think that not only will it be a return in benefit to the town and financially, I would also say that it's a big part of protecting the assets that we've already spent a fair amount of capital on. So whether it's Church Street or whether it's the soccer fields on Belmont, I think that there's a lot of town capital tied up into certain things that are left. I think undirected is probably the best way to describe it. And I think what we're just trying to do is say they need direction, they need support, and then hopefully the goal is to have that position not only lessen some of the burden off of the volunteer side of things, but create a dynamic and beneficial resource to the town, which is, I think, what we should be trying. We should be trying to do in our town. You drive through a lot of other areas, and some of the the culture and the arts, and they have some pretty bustling programs not that far away from here. So I think that this is an opportunity for us to get ourselves back on track.
Yeah, I mean, I look forward to hearing more about, with the job description and the reporting structure and all that outline. I mean, and the reality of the next year's budget, it's a tight budget. Our contribution to Plymouth County Retirement went up by a sizable amount, which lessens the pool of available funds for added spending. So,
Yep.
But definitely open to hearing everything and seeing everything. So I look forward to seeing that.
Well, we've already got most of the description already set up, so that's
Okay.
Right.
that's there. We can share that with you at any point in time.
Okay.
And we recognize, the financial side of it. I would just say that,
And we appreciate that we had a working budget
yeah,
this
we
year.
really do.
It's the
So thank
first
you
year
very
we've had
much.
one, so we're
Yes.
grateful for that.
Yep. But we think it's important for us to keep trying to advance the ball forward for the town.
If you look at some communities, like Raynham has a very vital recreation commission. Their whole department is always offering programs and services. We don't have anything for teens. Parents are always telling us, what are you gonna do for the teens? There's kids that aren't involved in sports, that just, if they're not a drama kid or a music kid, what do they do? And also financially, sometimes parents can't afford some of these programs. Maybe we, as a community, can offer something that's different and not quite as expensive as some of these other programs.
Correct.
So we're just trying to look at filling the needs in different ways and kind of collaborating with the existing programs and youth groups and things like that, putting our heads together to maybe co-sponsor some things and coming up with new ways to do things so that everybody benefits.
I think it would be key to note too, like, with those programs, there'll be revenue coming in, right? So how
Yes.
that
Yeah,
can
there would be
kind of
fees, yeah.
potentially in the future offset some of the expenses being asked for.
Exactly.
One thing I wanted to, so last week at ARPA, the committee did recommend, we voted on several different initiatives, one of which was the outdoor movie system, and that was recommended to approve to be brought forward to the Board of Selectmen, so,
Fantastic.
yeah. The other ones just haven't been voted on yet, but
Totally
I just
understand
wanted
the
to make sure
process.
you were updated on that.
Thank you. Yep, we hope they follow through with that, and then there'll be, 8, 10 events, hopefully, just based on that movie theater, and groups looking to, rent that out for their purposes of fundraising for their groups and so forth. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, I would love for us to be revenue neutral. I don't want it to cost us, but I don't want it to, cost people to have to go to certain events. I think that's what community should be about. So like, if we can give back to the community, I think that's an important part. We want to cover our costs, but we want to make it as economically easy for the townspeople.
Definitely. Any other questions?
I don't know, that movie theater might outdo Dale and the Duds, I don't know.
Well, when Dale is not playing, we're actually going to be looping videos of Dale and the Dutch concert. So like, we've already got a plan for that.
That's a good idea. Any other questions for them? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can you just make sure a copy of this gets to the town accountant? So she can roll it into the master?
Yep,
that we
absolutely.
have everything in one group.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we'll do Historical Commission.
Are you good with that email? I'll just forward it to Melanie.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Dale Julius, and I'm the chair of the East Bridgewater Historical Commission. The commission is appointed by the Board of Selectmen. Currently, we're running a little short on a membership, so if this is on TV, if anybody's interested, write a letter to the Board of Selectmen and tell them you'd be interested. We're charged with preserving and protecting the town's history. Some of it's just written history, some of it's artifacts. Our budget is small. We haven't really asked for much because our projects aren't very expensive. We have been asking for money to work on the old graveyard across the way. That's a very historic piece. That's the founders of East Bridgewater are in there. And that's been our main expense the last couple of years. But we also have clerical stuff and preservation materials and so on. So I didn't fill out any forms because we've been doing pretty much the same thing year after year. And if we're looking for big projects, with the 200th anniversary of the town, we might want to tackle some more projects in the future, but that would be big money and that would be a whole different thing. But as far as running the commission, we're good with what we've had and would like to ask for that again. And hopefully we can save the historic interests of the town, because it's an incredibly historic town. We've got a lot of real good history here. Questions? As I said, I didn't prepare because we have our meeting right up the hall, so.
No, I mean, it's pretty, I mean, I think it's 2,500
2,500.
is what, yeah, so, yeah, I mean, that shouldn't be any issue.
I didn't figure that it would be. There's some things that might be issues coming. We are looking for space. We're hoping to have a place. We have a room at the library, but they want to be changing some things around. And we have some very valuable, paperwork and files, and that they're scattered around the town. So we'd like to have a central repository for all those things. And that's something for the future, but it's something to think of. And like I said, if this is getting out to people and spread the word, we need some more volunteers, as they were just talking about with the rec department. You need the volunteers to work together in different groups, like we work with the scouts when it comes to doing like a graveyard cleanup or things like that. And they're always willing to volunteer their time. But we need, some volunteers to step forward with the Historic Commission. Be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Good plug. Any questions for Dale? No? Okay. All right.
Okay.
We'll let you get to your next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Have a
coming.
great night. Thank you. I was
Okay, Nancy.
I'll talk to you soon. Good to see you guys.
Good night.
Charlie is
Like you
making
very
copies of my budget. I didn't realize you wouldn't have them, so
No problem.
this is just a,
I think we have them
Take care.
Yeah, we have it online.
We have them
Is it
electronically.
now he
Yes.
has my copy, so I don't.
Oh, okay. No problem. Well, it's good. We have a couple new members, so it's always good to go through and do a high level what the COA does.
Well, I have my copies, and if you have something, a copy of the budget to look at online, or do you need a paper copy? or- Charlie's making them.
Yeah, I'll take one when
Okay.
it's, I didn't bring my laptop.
Okay.
You can, you can start through though. When we met, I was the liaison. There's nothing dramatic in here. There's one,
I had prepared two budgets for you, so.
yeah. But the one you'd like would
Yep.
be the one to add, talking about your succession planning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, I have proposed, one of my budgets has a new position, an assistant director position. I would like to try to have some succession planning. My intent is to retire at the end of this contract, which is in June of 2025. So I had hoped to move my current administrative assistant into an assistant director's position and move my principal clerk into the vacated administrative assistant position. So that is included in one of the budgets. And at this point, it is, to my understanding, still being negotiated by the union.
Oh, okay. All right. Then on the, on the expense side, there was really nothing that was made, little in supplies. Was that tied to a copier?
That was two laptops.
Oh, laptops, okay.
I have two laptops currently that are running on Windows 7. They're no longer supported, I believe, and they're a security risk. So Ryan McGonigal quoted me $1,500 per device for two new laptops. And that was really the only change under general expenses.
Right. Now, you used to get, and I don't think I asked about this when we met, there was that grant from an organization in Brockton. Does that still?
No.
No.
Unfortunately, we received it in 2020, and of course, then it took 2 years for us to expend it. When I contacted them again after we had spent it down, I got a response that it's now in probate.
Oh,
I'm not really sure what that means, but we have not received any further funding,
oh, that's too bad.
unfortunately, yeah.
'Cause you got that for quite a few years.
Yes, we did, probably 10 years, and it was between $10,000 and $15,000 a year. And we did a lot of programming with that, so.
Okay. Were there, are there other grant programs out there?
The only other grant that I'm guaranteed is from the state. It's my formula grant, which is based on the latest federal census. We receive so many dollars per elder per census, and that's good for that 10-year period.
Okay.
Thanks, Tom. Yes. And these are kind of cut and pasted, so I apologize, but
That's okay. Yes, you can see that on the new position budget,
Yeah.
the clerical goes up.
I had estimated an assistant director salary based on other towns that have that position at about 60,000. And so that would be an increase of about 4,300 above her current salary. And then my intent was to move my other employee to a step 4 administrative assistant, which would be about the same amount of an increase, so about $8,600 increase. Of course, that was based on the previous clerical contract. So
Okay.
these figures are
Yeah,
fluid
yeah.
at this time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, succession planning is important, especially, you can't just train that overnight, and your administrative assistant, she's been there for quite some time, right?
Both my administrative assistant and principal clerk have been at the COA since 2009,
Yeah,
so they're valuable employees.
yeah, no, definitely.
Dan, I have a question.
Yes.
It's really for Nancy. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. And I'm taking meeting minutes too, so.
You're awesome, thank
So
you.
once this position, once this position is filled, so once you retire, and I think, did you say June 2025?
Yes.
You're thinking?
Yes.
Would the assistant director position go away, or would it remain on the books? So the person would be kind of groomed to take your position, you retire, this person takes over. Would you still need that assistant director position, or is it just temporary?
Well, I think it's good to always have an assistant director position. I can't say that she would move into that position. I believe it would have to be advertised and go through the proper channels. But we have,
Okay, thank you.
we have 3.5 employees right now. We could certainly use a larger staff. Our workload has steadily increased over the past 10 to 15 years.
And
Okay, thank you.
Is there any level of like training or certification that she has to go through that you go through, that?
There are some formal certifications, however, they're not required
Okay,
certifications. Most of it is on-the-job training, and as the saying goes, if you've seen one COA, you've seen one COA, so we're all a little different.
So the 3.5, you're requesting to go to 4, or you're going to go 4.5 with a full position?
I don't think it's any,
It would not be, I'm not asking for an additional position next year. I'm adding a position, but not people,
So you're not increasing hours for some people?
no.
Okay.
However, my intent then would be, hopefully the following year, to fill that position vacated. So that, would add another position, but not in FY '24.
okay.
That makes sense.
Pretty straightforward.
Okay. Any other questions for Nancy? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Okay, next up, police, please.
See, these are the bigger budgets where you get tough.
Yes. We have our hard-hitting questions saved for the end of the night. Thank you.
We had sent our budget to Dave a while ago, but there's still been no new negotiations between the town and the unions. So we're still holding fat on that.
When do you expect that to be settled?
Yeah, the first one is coming up March 9th with patrol. We've gone to the body cameras, so everybody's gonna do a little bit of, back to the sergeants for some impact bargaining because of the change of work conditions, and it'll all be worked in during patrol bargaining, the body cameras. Fortunately, a lot of the budget, the additional comps are all tied to the salaries.
Right. So you have patrol and then, there's another
Impact
one.
bargaining for the sergeants,
Okay,
the deputy chief's contract, and my contract.
okay.
Did get all the camera, body worn camera and cruiser cameras in. You don't need to go back to APA for that additional funding, because Mike had written a grant, and we got $221,000 from the state to pay for
Oh, that's great.
majority of it.
That's awesome.
Helps out a lot.
Yeah, the total project is over, it was about 320,000. We didn't think we'd be eligible for the grant, but, you know, they encouraged us to write it, and we were awarded the second highest amount in the state for a department our size. So we
Wow.
got $221,584, which pays for all our hardware, which we've already, over the last couple of weeks, have been installed. Now it's just a matter of going live, but it does require impact bargaining because it is a change of work conditions.
Okay.
The
Based on all CBAs in the state, you'll see that.
Sorry, Mike. The additional money that we had gotten from Allison, through the state and from APA, we'll use over the next 5 years to pay for the cloud and those computer costs with it.
Oh, okay.
So we have that in a revolving account already, you'll see.
State grant won't pay for software support and services, they just pay for hardware only, so we got everything covered but the software support and services.
We also had the same company upgrade 3 interview rooms, because they were antiquated and machine was filling up. So that's what you'll see on there. It's cost of $18,000 over 5 years, so it's $4,000 roughly charge a year to cover the cost of those 3 rooms.
Would have been 34,000, but we got part of that paid for through the grant money as well.
Okay.
I put in for 2 new cruisers. One will be a patrol, and with the other money, I should be able to buy 2, most likely used unmarked vehicles for the detectives. Each detective car is approximately 10 years old at this point. (2013) and 2015, and they're 150,000 miles on them, so they're getting up there.
Department staffing is gonna stay the same for 2024 as 2023?
You don't have any key retirements or,
I have a couple people talking, but nobody's put anything official in yet.
okay. So when we
I don't
talked,
think it'll happen in FY '24, though.
okay. When we talked to the fire chief, he was anticipating some that required him to bring a company in to administer testing.
Assessment center.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had talked to Charlie already about it, and I won't be having one this
You
year.
won't, okay.
If we do hire near the end of the next fiscal year, that's all paid for by the people taking the test now. Not since we're out of civil service, we would hire a company, and the
Oh.
people who are taking the test would actually cover the cost of that. The town wouldn't incur a cost for that.
Oh,
It's
okay.
self-funded, so an outside company, they do all the work for you, they take their share out of it, but that way it shows commitment on the people taking the test as well, if you fund the test, if someone might come in and not be serious about it, but if, just like civil service, you pay $100 to take the test, et cetera. So there'll be a private company that will run the testing, which a lot of non-civil service towns do, and the funding that they put up, the $100 or whatever it may be, helps, pay for the whole thing, but it's all third-party handles it all, so no costs incurred by the town at all.
Okay, that's great.
We just got to supply a location,
And
the high
you said
school, so.
You put in for 2 cruises.
Two, but one will be patrol, and they're roughly 60 grand fully outfitted. And then I'm looking to replace two of the two 10-year-old detective cars,
You
most
can do
likely,
that way, okay.
that way. They're not gonna cost, they're like half the price of a,
And those all we stay same make and or
well,
make it all, so the DPW, because they do a lot of the servicing, right? Okay.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah,
Huge savings, yeah. We're sticking with Fords.
okay. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing crazy here except the
Waiting.
variable of salary.
That's our biggest,
Yeah,
Really, that's
we're in the holding pattern.
That's for
Yeah.
everybody just about
I
too.
know.
So that's gonna be something we're gonna have to consider and really look at. Have we received like what the projected revenues are yet?
they sent out the estimate that came out last week, right? Yeah.
Are you talking total, or are you talking about the state aid?
Total.
Oh,
No.
no,
Dan, myself, and Melanie need to work on that.
yeah,
I got the
we saw state aid,
Went up a
that's,
little bit,
yeah, went up a little bit.
Once we settle contracts, we'll just keep updating and send it out to you guys electronically.
Okay. I don't have any questions.
No, now, I know you have some capital. No, actually, it's in facilities, right?
Correct.
So, won't bother you.
Have you started to see like your, call volume for,
It's in there. It stayed approximately the same as last
Yeah.
year, right around 28,000 calls. Public records have gone through the roof. They're up 1,000 this year.
Hmm.
And, that takes time to process them all.
are you seeing any benefit? The town was using a shared mental health professional to help you out with some
We
calls.
just had interviews last week for a new mental health clinician because our
Oh.
other one left,
Oh, okay.
and she turned down the position.
Oh,
So there's a couple other options, and we'll meet with the chiefs together and see what we can do. It's tough to find help right now.
yeah, no,
Everybody-
yeah, all over the place. It's awful.
We had a great one shared by the 5 communities that were involved in the grant, but Taunton saw how good she was and offered her a lot more money, and she's working for Taunton just separately, just
Yeah.
on their own, so. It's a desired, there's a big need for it. It's a desired position with a lot of departments, just hard to find the people that want to do it
Right.
right now.
The one we hired last year, she only lasted 3 or 4 months.
Mm. Yeah, it's a taxing job.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
All
Any
right, I'm good.
questions for the chief or deputy chief?
Just a quick question. Is this a typo, or is there still a Cruiser 220 that's a 2005?
Yes, there is.
That is correct? All right.
That is
Just
correct.
everything else is much newer, that one.
Yeah.
Right, that's a vehicle I don't want to talk about on the air.
Oh. No problem.
It's one of our undercover vehicles.
Fair enough.
Okay, all right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Save the big guys for last.
If there's any money left.
Does everybody want to get up, stretch their legs, make themselves comfortable, take a water break or anything?
Oh, boy.
He only has like 5 budgets to present.
Only takes a couple hours. Chief. Hope there's nothing sensitive in this notebook.
Mm.
Paul. Actually knows what you're keeping there. I don't want anything. Handed that evidence over. We're like 25 minutes ahead of where I thought we'd be.
Yeah,
Good.
we are trying to be very efficient this year. Karen with us, yep.
We prepared a quick presentation. I think all of you have seen it electronically at this point. But for anyone in the audience, you may want to With me is Brian Kiley, he's the facilities manager. The other guys are catching some Z's. It was a long night last night, so.
Yeah.
Again, Public Works encompasses a number of, facets of services for the municipality, for the town of East Bridgewater. There's 7 divisions in total, comprised of highway and grounds, wastewater, facilities, snow and ice, solid waste management, and administrative. So what typically works the smoothest is just a general overview of the divisional budgets. Again, we have 5 that what we consider general government budgets. Those are funded with general government revenue, tax revenue. And then we have 2 what are referred to as off budget, because those are enterprise accounts. So those enterprise accounts are self-sustaining, and fees and such offset the expense. And we manage those. So those are essentially little businesses that are run inside of our division. Not so little anymore, but so in total, our proposed budget for FY 2024 is $7,606,000. Everyone's had an opportunity to review it, but I think it's just easy if we go through each division.
I agree, yep.
We'll move through them as quickly as possible. So we are proposing a,
I can see this one.
so the Highway and Grounds Division is made up of a staff of 5. And that division maintains over 90 miles of roadway, 25 miles of sidewalk, and inclusive of the roadway sweeping, line painting, roadside mowing, drainage, catch basin cleaning, guardrails maintenance, things like that, on an annual basis, as well as, all of the capital work we do. The capital plan. We right now have over $20 million of capital work that DPW is responsible for, because as with, again, all the DPWs are pretty much involved in all facets of any project, that infrastructure or facilities project that goes on in any of the other town departments. DPW has a role in project management and oversight of those projects.
Your number of miles of roadways should have gone up after yesterday, right?
Well, we won't even get into that. That's how things change. But there's roadway that's under maintenance, and then there's accepted roadway, unaccepted roadway. So in totality, we have, because when we look at that, and honestly, if you're a resident who pays taxes on any way in East Bridgewater, you get your road plowed for emergency services and swept and things like that.
True.
What we don't do are unaccepted ways that have not gone through that process. They're legally not eligible for the municipality to expend funds for repair, reconstruction, things like that on, and that. So that's sort of the position we've taken in town. Obviously, if you live on one street or another, and we all pay the same tax rate and this and that, and,
right.
to that level of service, and obviously, again, we're not gonna not plow your street, and you have to worry about whether or not the ambulance can get there. So we look at it as every road is a public way during an emergency event, and we consider snow and ice operations an emergency operation. Within that too, we also are responsible for all the public grounds maintenance. So we have a staff of 4, and then we hire 2 seasonal students who assist us in maintaining. We maintain over 50 acres of actively used recreational space. We also maintain all the school grounds, which in totality is 7 baseball fields and 2 softball fields. 10 soccer fields, 5 tennis courts, and the synthetic turf field at the stadium, as well as we're very involved in the project that was before you, with recreation. We're actually managing that project for them. We're utilizing our, in-house staff to work on that project as well, to save some dollars so we can, make those dollars that have been appropriated stretch a little bit farther. We also obviously, emergency storm response is a significant role of the department we're involved in. As well as accident response, we pretty much, again, are called on often to assist accident cleanup, restoration, things like that. And again, as I just referred to, we take a lot of pride in being able to assist and help out with these capital projects around town, because we have the ability with our staff to stretch that funding that's appropriated farther, because obviously we are, and we're working with prevailing wage and things like that, those costs are significant. And when we can utilize our own in-house staff for portions of those projects, it allows us to extend the dollars that are appropriated to do more. So like with the project that Recreation talked about down on Church Street, the basketball courts, we've gone in already and we've removed all the asphalt and prepped the base. So what'll happen now is we'll bring a paving contractor in to pave the surface, and then we'll do the installation of the new basketball courts, and then we'll bring a contractor back in to actually, prep the surface and paint the courts in and things like that. So, we work in partnership with things like, similar to police, as the police were just discussing, we have several contracts that aren't settled, that are still, that are in negotiation. Clerical contract, the supervisors and myself all will still have to move forward with negotiation of contracts. So the recommendation was to just put in last year's number and hold that number, and when we come back, we'll make that adjustment. One of the things we do have a contract in place with our laborers, and one of the things we did with this year was address a number, we incorporated a number of the, I don't know exactly the best term for this, but there are additional benefits outside of their straight compensation that they used to receive, and we looked at those and kind of came up with some creative ways to, again, just as the police department, we are struggling with retention of employee retention. It's become very challenging, and as a result, we all need to look at different creative ways to make these, to advertise for these jobs, make the entry-level positions more attractive to recruit better candidates, and then try to retain them. So we did some creative things and worked that into, and you'll see that throughout the contract. So again, some of the things that used to be in here, such as license payments, vacation buyback, sick leave buyback, and things have all been restructured. As far as general expense, the only, with the Highway and Grounds Division, as everyone's experiencing, we are seeing significant increases in material costs. Just the cost to do business is, and unlike a lot of the other departments that are, 95% salary-based, Public Works is we're more like 70% personnel, 30% actually materials and expenses, and we're seeing very significant increases in material costs, just as everyone is.
So John, if I'm looking at this, and up in the top of personal services, I thought you said that contracts weren't negotiated, but there are increases in there. And then I'm wondering about all the stuff that's gone now, like, cell phone stipends, it's gone. License payments is gone. I mean, what happened there in those situations?
Yep. So in audit, what was actually done was those were incorporated into an entirely different wage grid structure. And we've made the adjusted entry-level position rates, and we've also made the salary much more incentive-based. So now there's we've incentivized license opportunities, things like that. We've identified what licenses go with what positions, made them, incorporated those into the position grades rather than, so in order to have this license, it's related to this position, where it used to be, it may have been that the license was available when you got it, but it wasn't specific to your grade and role. Now it's tied into the grade and role, and it's recognized in your hourly rate. So
when they have to renew it, it's in their pocket to?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And what happened to the, some of these other increases up there, like clerical and, what was that, labor overtime? Well, overtime, is it?
Yep. Labor overtime's actually the same number it was in FY 2023. There's no increase to that. The clerical position, that represents a 50% of a part-time employee that was brought on for clerical services. So we have 2.5 clerical positions in DPW. We've actually always had 2.5 positions. At one point, we actually had 3 full-time positions. We had a retirement, and we actually had we had a death of one of them a few years ago. We didn't fill that position for a while, so this is essentially bringing us back to the 2.5 staffing. So in general expenses, the increase is, we're looking at a $7,000 increase in our signs and lines budget based on where we are, and that's really reflective of the cost we're seeing increase in aluminum, steel. So when we talk about signs, we do our own installation of street signs and things like that, and that's really just reflective of the passing along that cost we've seen increase for materials. Any other questions with highway and grounds? Snow and ice budget, one of the, again, we're proposing for 30 years, snow and ice budget was funded at the same level, and it was really, I'll use the term, it was inadequate to say the best, ridiculous would be more to describe it. We funded it at $50,000, and our average had been $400,000 a year, had been our average on a 5-year average. So one of the things about snow and ice is the only line item that can be overexpended without a action of town meeting, because it is so variable, and it fluctuates greatly from year to year, as we're seeing this year, how different it can be. But so in 2021, with the help of the Finance Committee, we actually funded the budget at what it had been, what was an accurate 3-year average, and $425,000. But we do need to recognize that since 2021, we've seen massive increase in our savings grace has been the 2021, 2022, and 2023 now have been relatively mild winters. But our costs from material costs have risen significantly. In 2021, our price per ton of salt was $48. In 2023, this year, it's $68 a ton. About 50% of our overall budget actually works out to be material purchases, just the salt usage. We use about 2,500 tons of salt a year. And then we've similarly seen, so this rental of lease vehicles, this is actually, it's not representative of what it actually is. That is the line item that we pay our contractors from. So when we bring in our contracted crews, we actually have 19 vehicles, municipal vehicles, that go out on this when we go into plowing operations, and we supplement that with 35 contracted vehicles. I think as everyone's recognized, it's become more and more difficult. You start down Route 24 and you just cannot find plow contractors. So with that, obviously rates have increased over.
So this shows actual as of 11:30, and there's 84% remaining, but we just had a storm. So just for our education and the folks at home, what's your rough guess of what happened with that 84% with this storm?
Oh, I can tell you that our cost today will be about $25,000 for today's event.
Not bad.
And this was, again, you can see when this budgeting was as of.
Yeah.
So this is 11:30. This was essentially before winter even starts. And we had, what we do, a practice that we've started is at the end of every season, if funding allows, we purchase our salt ahead of time because we know that September 30, the next year, the price is going to go up. There's only one time in the 25 years that I've been doing this now that I actually saw price drop. Every year it goes up. Not 50% like it has over the last 2 years, but it goes up every year. So if we have dollars remaining, what we'll do is we'll fill the salt shed so that we go into FY, into the following winter season without that significant expense.
Just a quick question. When you said, this event, snow event, about 25,000, is that just labor costs, or is that also like the depletion of the salt?
Correct. That's material.
Oh, that's
Yep.
that's okay.
I proved exactly. Any questions? Fleet maintenance is has become a significant role of DPW. We maintain the entire municipal fleet, which is representative of more than 100 pieces of equipment. DPW has 52 pieces of equipment between trucks and tractors, front-end loaders and the such, but we also maintain the police department's fleet, fire department, with the exception of the actual pumps and the ladder. But the cab and chassis, all of that are maintained by our 3 fleet mechanics. We actually have two fleet mechanics. We've been working to hire a third. Again, a very difficult position to fill. One of the things we need to begin to anticipate and work towards, and I made a note so that I wouldn't forget to bring it to people's attention, is we need to start looking and planning for the costs related to the increase of technology and service demands related to the hybrid and electric vehicles. Those costs are quite significant, and there's also a real steep learning curve of training individuals to be proficient with maintaining that equipment. And to be honest with you, it's a bit of an unknown right now, but it's something that we need to keep on the radar. Virtually no vehicle and even, can we even begin to diagnose until you have a software program that we plug in the vehicle's computer? Particularly the police cruisers are all moving to hybrid. They don't have any full electric vehicles yet, but all of the newer vehicles that they purchase are hybrid vehicles, which are, that's great, they're very efficient and such, but they require almost the next level of training and certification. We have 2 ASC certified mechanics, and so as we look to hire new, fill that 3rd position, we'll be looking for someone that has that skill set. And our 2 mechanics have told me, they're both in their late 50s. They'll be retiring within the next few years. We had this conversation last year about attrition and trying to identify succession planning and things like that. Within the next 10 years, 60% of our DPW will retire. So we spend a lot of time looking at succession planning and things like that. So, excuse me. The biggest struggle we are facing right now, as far as fleet maintenance, is actually getting the supplies, getting the equipment, getting the parts for the repairs that are necessary. No longer, same-day parts deliveries. So we've actually had to move to, particularly with the common piece, things that we know that fail, and of stocking those ourselves, having 2 or 3 of those on the shelves where even 2 years ago, you'd pick up the phone and call your parts plate, and they would have it there that afternoon. That doesn't happen any longer. So it's a change in the way we're doing business, and have to be more proactive in managing our inventory and things like that. So that's actually taking one of our employee, one of the fleet maintenance foremen, and he's turning wrenches a lot less, and he spends a lot more time diagnostics, computers, and managing the inventory, tracking down parts, chasing, eBay and Amazon have become, a go-to place to get parts, even for newer pieces of equipment.
So Johnny, labor salaries are up there, but that's not contracts negotiated, is it?
Yes, so
It is?
our labor, teams, laborers are all Teamsters, their contract is settled. Yep, their contract is settled through 2020, June of 2025, I believe, a 3-year contract.
And that's for three.
That's representative of the 3, that's the 3 funded positions, and that's.
Only have 2, right?
Correct. So
Yeah.
when we talked, and that was, again, appreciated the finance committee working with us at that point, because what we need to do is find the right, find the fit. So we need to have, so we've essentially been advertising and interviewing for 9 months. It's sort of an open position. To be honest with you, I think we have a strong candidate, who we're looking forward to coming on board. And we've actually had, it's just a different world. It used to be, you think about public works jobs, and everybody wanted a public works job. We can't fill a public works job. We actually had hired an individual, and he came in after we'd, agreed on a start date. He said, "Well, can I see the facility?" He saw the facility and said, "It's too small. I can't work in here." So it's a whole different type of, there's so many different factors now when you're considering employees and how you, as management and managers, how you manage your personnel and different, they just have different options and things that are important to them. And, you know, we're all discovering that balance, you know, and how to deal with that. Facilities maintenance is a division of overall Public Works. Overall, we are responsible for more than 1 million square feet of municipal and school building space. Just a note, and it's no different than, I think, everyone's house at home. Nearly 50% of the overall DPW general government request is additional funding to meet the rising energy needs, the cost of rising energy. Brian works diligently with an energy specialist, like this is what this company does, to procure and lock us in with long-term, short-term energy rates for both natural gas and electricity. And we get good pricing, but still, when the energy market increases 50%, you know, we may get good pricing, but it's still a 36% increase instead of a 50% increase. And we'll lock that rate in for as long as possible, but we're constantly working to try to find the best price. And sometimes it's a short-term thing because you think the market's gonna change, and that's served the town very well over the last several years. But again, there are some expenses that, you know, we just can't. In order to, again, provide a level service budget, costs have to go up. What we do within the facilities budget is we actually separate the facilities budget into two sections. The municipal budget and the school budget, for tracking purposes for the school's Chapter 70 reimbursement, but also for the school uses that to offset other costs and things like that. But it's all within the DPW budget. It's DPW dollars that fund the maintenance of the school buildings. The significant increase, again, is heating and oil, which we have no oil any longer in any of our municipal law school buildings. It's all natural gas. And we've been working over the last few years to get this number to be a more realistic number. And that cost it's $275,000 to heat the school buildings. So that's really, as I referred to earlier, that's where the bulk of our general government budget increase is reflective. And the final general government budget division is our wastewater, our sewer division. We have currently we maintain and operate the wastewater treatment facility for the high school, which also services our downtown sewer district, which has 7 commercial connections. We treat on average about 17,000 gallons of flow a day. But we are also, I think, as we've been to the Finance Committee several times, and we've talked about the North Bedford Street district that we're developing, which will be, essentially we're building an entire new department around this, because we'll have collection of 14,000 feet of force main. We'll be collecting 75,000 gallons of flow a day, as well as what we're running into is the wastewater treatment facility is now 12 years old, and it's aging. And we had previously run it with contracted services. And this year, that contracted services rate doubled. So what we are proposing this year is we are actually proposing hiring a full-time treatment operator for the sewer department. It actually will represent a savings to the division, and with the additional benefit of having that full-time employee be able to grow with the development of the district. I'll be perfectly frank, we anticipate that to service that, when that's built out in 3 to 5 years, we'll need 2 or 3, full-time people in the sewer division. But right now, what we are proposing would be to utilize the town hire our own treatment operator, which will actually represent some savings opportunity for the town versus what it would be. What this isn't representative of is the emergency services we've had to incur to with an aging system. The pumps and things in the chambers are old, 10, 12 years old. They're reaching the end of their usable life. We've had to call in emergency service contracts now 4 times this fiscal year already to service those. With our own in-house staff, we could be servicing them on a preventative maintenance basis at cost savings. So again, I think this is has a few different benefits to the town.
So the sewer isn't like the water where it funds itself?
Not at this point. So that would be the eventual goal, and that will be the goal with, that opportunity exists with the development of the North Bedford Street district. It doesn't exist with this downtown district at this time because about 70% of what we're treating is municipal waste from the school department. So it's all on general government. When we build out the district, there'll be users and there'll be user fees associated with that, and we'll be able to recoup, the rates that we charge for the services will cover the additional expenses, as well as, eventually offsetting some of these costs as well. Plus, we have opportunity for expansion still here with this facility, and as we can add users, we can offset the cost to the town.
The 7 commercial users that we have tied to the downtown, though, they paid connection fees, I'm assuming, and then
Yes.
they pay based on whatever their
And then
flow is.
Correct, so they pay an initial connection fee based on their allocation that they requested, and then they pay on a biannual basis along with their water. It's actually part of, in with their water bill, we bill them a sewer fee. They're very small users, as far as water and wastewater users. You're talking about like CVS, Dewhurst Lumber. Carriage Crossing is tied in now. They're significant, but their flow is actually relatively small. They don't have a lot of usage. So we're not recouping a great deal of revenue at this point. Unlike when we build out the district on North Bedford Street and you have, commercial, development up there that will have high usage medical facilities, additional housing, things like that. That's a lot of flow. So that flow will generate revenue from.
Right.
And you don't have any utilities there?
No. Utilities is because, and Brian could probably explain this better, so the utilities for the natural gas portion are on the school meter because it's related to the school building, and the electricity is absorbed in our solar credits initiative projects that we have with the conglomerate. What's it referred to, Brian? As the solar
credits?
Yeah, the whole. So we've taken all of the town's utilities and absorbed them into the pilot program. I'm gonna mess this up because I don't fully understand this. Brian handles that, and with Melanie. The public-private partnerships, though, with the solar fields we have pilot agreements with them, and we get credits back for our usage, but we have to allocate our kilowatts towards that.
Yes, okay.
It's a pretty complicated formula that I am not prepared to speak about right now. I will brutally.
The wastewater treatment plant is actually powered off the high school electric meter. That's by design, so it's covered by the generator that's at the high school.
That makes sense.
And we do receive solar credits from 2 different solar fields that we're municipal hosts on. So those credits get applied to our 28 different electrical accounts every month as a percentage. Every 6 months, we have to change that or look at it on they call it a Z schedule, and make an adjustment to make sure that we're absorbing all of our credits.
Okay.
We do have a solar consultant that came with the initial solar field that we signed on behind Compass Medical. That's actually, his fee is paid for out of that solar deal that the town made. So he comes to us free of charge, and he's excellent. There's a lot more opportunity out here for solar, and I'm looking into it. There's a cost of electricity, and I'm sure Melanie can pipe up, is going through the roof.
Yeah. Definitely.
Thank you, Brian. I definitely would have butchered that explanation. So the next division and the last 2 divisions are, as David just mentioned, they're enterprise accounts. The first being our solid waste and recycling division. So that's the enterprise account. Again, the fees that are charged to the user, the customer, offset and cover all the costs for the program. Fortunately, as with everything else I've talked about tonight, our collection contract and disposal contract comes to an end in June. And we have gone out for solicitation, and we are looking at a 30% increase in collection costs, collection and disposal costs. It's actually a 30% increase in collection, a 14% increase in disposal cost. Which again is reflective of the market, and I can go into a whole other explanation and show you that where that is, all those figures come from, and how they are all reflective of the market and such. And but at the end of the day, this is still the best program for the dollars that are out there. It's still going for the end user, the resident, the customer. It's the best value. The market has changed incredibly, again, in the last 3 years.
What's the tonnage cost now?
$114 a ton. Yep. So it's about $825,000 a year for the curbside collection of our solid waste toter and recycling toter biweekly. And $114 a ton is essentially the market rate that gets passed on, and recycling processing now is up close to $100 a ton as well. When I started doing this years and years ago,
Recycle used to pay for it.
we used to get a $35 credit for every ton of recycling we generated. There's no market for it. I think you've probably all heard about the tip of the sword in China, and China used to take all of our recycling, and that all changed right before COVID. Then COVID happened, and it entirely changed the solid waste market. Put most of the demand for disposal was residential demand, which all of these massive, national companies, their business model wasn't as much based on municipal service collection as it was on commercial collection. When you close down the world, all of those places stop that collection. So they did a massive shift, and honestly, the fact that we would continue to be serviced regularly was a reflection of the relationship we have with Republic Service, because you saw so many other communities that had, you know, force majeure, they call it, when essentially the system isn't built for what happened. They weren't able to service their contracts. 3 years ago, when we were looking at contract options, there were numerous independent haulers. You know, you had Dooley's and ABC's and Noonan. All of those companies in the last 3 years have been acquired and are now owned by Win Waste. So the long and the short of this, what happens is it will reflect a rate increase effective June 30th, July 1st. Rates will go up. They're currently $400. They'll go up to $500 a year, and that will cover, you know, is projected to cover the next 2 years of a solid waste contract.
So that tonnage cost now, that's the current cost, and you expect it to go up more next year?
No, it's locked in at 114 for next year. So you can see, you know, we're looking at a $322,000 increase in our solid waste budget for next year.
How many residents are currently using the program?
3,080. So it works out, that's household, so that works out to be about 3/4 of the households in East Bridgewater. And again, when we were looking, you know, wasn't done lightly when, you know, we looked at having to increase the fee. Even at $500, the closest competitor to us is the only other option for residents, honestly, is Win Waste, and they're $569 a year for their base program. And when we looked at the alternative provided to Republic Service that could handle a municipality of this size is Waste Management. Waste Management's cost was $960,000 for curbside collection, with similar disposal fees.
And when we met, you had said how many new signups are you getting on a weekly basis from the town?
We're averaging 5 to 7 per week that are moving away from their other, whatever program they had before, and joining the town's program, which is good. And to be honest, we build that into, you know, so that there's, it's not, in the municipal world, we don't call it profit, but, you know, that covers the costs associated to when a new account comes on. We make sure that that's, you know, not at a loss.
So clerical and labor, is that because those contracts have been settled, or the increase? 15,000, right, each?
The labor salaries, that's, so what we have, part of that is the increase in contractual obligation, but we are also proposing to operate the bulky waste collection has become is part of our curbside collection program. But the restrictions upon bulky waste have increased from our hauler. And what we feel we can do is we can provide that service internally, utilizing staff and having the recycling center open a little bit more. We can provide a better service to the customer. And then every time that we've had to increase rates, increase fees, we try to add at least an additional, you know, some component of the program. And what we're hoping to do is to be able to go to having the recycling center open. Now it's open the first and third Saturday of every month. We'd like to have it open year-round, the first and third Saturday and the second and fourth Wednesday for everyone, so that will be open, and offer some expanded bulky waste collection. So in order to do that, we'll need some more staffing at the recycling center.
Gonna take mattresses?
No. Town does not want to take mattresses, to honestly, to the point where the state, set that, regulation in place and had state contracts set up for municipalities to, and individuals to work through. And within 30 days of them instituting that regulation, they canceled the state contract. Because, so that's just my little sidebar on how well thought out that plan was. And that's another thing that's driving the significant cost increase. The Department of Environmental Protection, with all good intentions, has closed all the municipal landfills in Massachusetts over the last 20 years. They're also not permitting any additional capacity at incinerators. So the majority of the trash that we create is actually being transferred at transfer stations onto rail cars that are now having to haul our trash to North Carolina and Ohio. A very small percentage of it actually is being disposed of, and so those costs are then passed on to us.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is great when you start to really understand, and get into the minds of this business. It's incredible, and we all just keep generating more and more trash in our house, and all I can tell to people is, recycling is the third component of the 3 R's, and I preach this to my friends, my family. They get sick and tired of hearing of it, but the first R is reduce. Think about what you're buying, then, reduce, reuse, recycle. That's the intent. And we've all gone straight to recycle everything. Well, that's supposed to be the last R of the 3 R's, and I don't need to get on my soapbox about it, but,
Just the Amazon boxes, John.
incredible. Think about the amount of cardboard that comes through your home that even 3 years ago didn't. Just think about plastic bottles. The number of plastic bottles that, and unfortunately, 80% of our plastic bottles don't get recycled. So, it's just that if you really want to be, where you can make changes is think about what you purchase. Think about how you purchase it. We'd love to see, those are the controls we have. If people throw out less, we can bring down the cost of disposal, because that's the one component we have control over, is the amount of trash we generate. Again, I can go on for a long time about that, but I won't do that to you tonight. But so that is it's a massive increase that's being passed along, but I don't think any of us want to live in a community that doesn't provide trash disposal.
No.
And at the end of the day, our program is still the best program. I'm confident in saying that we offer the best program to our residents that they could procure under any other means. The reliability, the convenience, the service, and at a cost which nobody likes to pay for it, but one place or another, it's in your, if we didn't have it as an enterprise account, it would be part of the general fund. And, that would be an additional $1.5 million that would have to be absorbed somewhere in the general fund. So when we've looked at those options before, that, that's really not a feasible alternative at this point either.
No.
And at the end of the day, everyone needs to recognize it's a voluntary program. People opt into the program. They are not forced to utilize it. In the last division of DPW is our water division, which is an off-budget enterprise account. We have 6 full-time employees within the water division, and we now pump more than 350 million gallons of drinking water annually to 4,325 households and businesses in East Bridgewater. When you think about 350 million gallons of water a year, that's, a massive amount of water that we're drawing from our aquifer for the demand. And we were with Capital last week, and we were starting to, we're discussing the needs of the water infrastructure system. The backbone of our water system was built in 1964 when the town moved away from Brockton Water. We used to get all of our water from the city of Brockton. We were a Brockton municipality. And in 1964, we started to build out our own system. And what's happening now, our tank was built in 1964. First well was put in 1964. The next was put in 1968. We have 5 groundwater wells. We haven't built a new well since 1995. And the demand has increased. So in 1964, we have a 1.5 million gallon storage tank that would provide 3 days of water for the town of East Bridgewater. Go forward to 2024, and that doesn't meet a single day demand any longer. So these are all the infrastructure as in East Bridgewater, just as it is in the rest of the country, and is aging, and we need to begin to look at the long-range planning. And over the last 15 years, we've made significant investments in the green sand filtration plants for the quality of our water. We've upgraded how many miles of water main for both water quality and fire protection. But what we're seeing costs that are double and triple what they were 10 years ago. And just as a comparative sake, we put in 14,000 feet of water main in 2010 for $4 million. We put in 2,800 feet of water main this year for $900,000. So the costs are just escalating incredibly, and so we're going to be. Our water supply is not an option. It's not options about whether we upgrade mains or replace wells or so these costs are going to continue to come before us, and we have to address them. One of the things at the time that this budget was put together, so we have sort of what we refer to as like our operations side of the budget, and that operations budget is $1.1 million. We also have the indirect expenses, indirect costs related to operating the water department. And at the time of, again, when we created, we didn't have a lot of these numbers, so we carried.
Yeah, you should have them this week.
Okay, thank you. We can update this at that point.
Last days today.
What we did was we carried last year's numbers, and to be honest with you, these numbers don't change significantly from year to year. As far as you know, there's no.
No, I want to say, no, it was nothing crazy. There was one piece I was waiting for, that's why it wasn't over yet. But this works, so these are all amounts that are paid by the general fund originally. So like he has in there, with workers' comp insurance, that's paid by the town, but then later on, we can shift some of the expense over to the water department because water has the employees and, you know, is a user of some of that, so we do calculations to see how much of the amounts, in those categories from the general fund can we move over to water, to really proportion it out the way that it should be.
And the other component of that is our debt service. So when we do take on these projects, and we go to town meeting and we request funding for a project, the water system pays the debt service for those projects. It's not a general government expense. So there's of the $2.9 million budget, 1.1 of that is just debt service that we pay directly. The most significant portion of that is almost $850,000 is for the two water treatment plants that I previously referred to.
Do you know roughly when those fall off?
2028,
Oh, okay, that's not too far down the road.
which will be that's how, you know, as we start to plan our 5 and 10-year capital investment plans, we're actually looking at that and saying, okay, here's how we get to, because, for an example, to replace the water tank is gonna be $7 million today. When we get, I don't know what it'll be in 2028, 29, when we actually go to replace that, if we continue to see escalation, cost escalations, and like we have. And that is the DPW budget in a nutshell.
It's a novel.
This is summarized for you. Happy to take any questions you have, or, again, it's a lot to absorb. I'm always happy to answer questions later, or like,
Yeah, I think it is. I mean,
things.
especially for anyone who hasn't seen it before, it is a lot. So I think what I'd ask is everyone to go back and look at it. You know, now that John's kind of walked everyone through all the aspects of it, and if you see questions, and then we're going to talk before we leave tonight about future meetings. So if we need to, we can have you
Come
back.
back,
Yeah. Thank you.
There is one thing I'd like to bring forward too. We met with capital planning last week, and we had proposed back to the facilities budget, we had proposed as I guess it was a place to start discussions, but an unexpected repair, unforeseen repairs article. And the reason we're proposing this as an article is because what's happening, and again, Brian can help and speak to this, but what we're seeing is our facilities budget is structured around preventative maintenance and maintaining the facilities, but we're seeing a lot, particularly in the schools, and we're experiencing a lot of significant repairs. And when I talk about significant repairs that, plumbing repairs and things that are in the $5,000, $10,000, $12,000, you know, heating system repairs that $20,000, things like that. And that's not how the budget is structured, to have space in it to absorb expenses like that. We don't even really have any line item that would cover those. And in talking with Melanie, one of the things we are proposing and have proposed is an article, and it started with capital, but it's really not a capital planning article, because it's would be more of a facilities maintenance per se article, and it would be a place to go to when we had these occurrences, and the thought process being, it's not a revolving fund, but because it would never have money coming back into it like a revolving fund, but it would be, we'd have the opportunity to replenish it annually. So if we used,
It would have to be an article every
it
year.
would be an article that would be a standing article almost that would be replenished annually. So we have proposed $45,000 as an article that we could fund these from. And I know the concern of when, we bring a sort of an ominous budget in front is, and we create a budget line item that has $45,000 in it, and it goes into your general operating budget. Well, how do you know it ever got spent for that? Well, an article, just by its pure structure, has more constraints upon it of what it can be used for. It can be used for exactly what the article is written for. And that's why we're proposing this idea of an article for the repair of unforeseen mechanical expenses in our municipal buildings. And I just wanted to put that out there because after discussion, we think it's more of a finance committee related article that you would review and approve rather than something that we would move through the capital process.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this would be if you set the article at 45,000, and you spend 20, you're just gonna replenish 20 the next year.
Correct. Right. That's the thought process behind it.
That's separate.
And there was some discussion about should they be using the Selectmen's Reserve Fund, emergency fund. So, we gotta have that discussion.
The issue being, when we have a significant plumbing leak or whatnot in the central school, and we've had several, you have a boiler issue or whatnot, we really don't have time to wait for the process of requesting a reserve fund transfer to move forward, and then for finance committee to meet, 10 days, so it's even in an emergency, 4 or 7 days later, to review the proposal.
Right.
To make the repair. We need to make the repair, and then it's almost as though, well, you went ahead and made the repair without any funds, without an allocation of funds. What are we gonna do? I don't think that's really that's not the intent of, even to that point, I don't know if that's the intent of the emergency reserve funds.
Right.
Transfer. So this would be again, a standalone article that would be an annual appropriation for that funding, rather than building it into the budget, again, coming back to FinCom for emergency reserve, or as we had to do a few times last, is, at the end of the year, we're pulling money from here and there to make it all work out and balance.
Right.
Because that was a question, well, you're able to pay for these things. Well, yeah, they were paid for because we ended up taking, dollars that were allocated for care of public grounds, and there was $7,000 left in that, so we pulled that over here, at the end to make this all work, and it's just, in my mind, it's not a good way of doing business.
Right. No, I agree.
It's just something that I wanted to bring before you for consideration when you see that.
Any other questions for John? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So I did want to note that the school committee's also meeting tonight. Yes, yeah, today's Tuesday. And they'll be meeting next Tuesday, I believe, to certify their budget. So, yes, it's next Tuesday. So we'll have to get them in once they've gone through, to have their budget hearing. So we'll get them on the calendar to come in and meet with the full committee now that the Chapter 70 funding has come out and they have a better idea of where everything stands. We do have minutes. They were sent out via email from the February 15th and February 21st meeting. If people have had a chance to review those, we can vote to accept. I'll entertain a motion to approve the meetings from February 15th and February 21st as presented.
Make a motion.
Motion by Dave,
Second the motion?
second by Lisa. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
As for next meetings.
Aye.
Oh, thank you. As for next meetings, I'm traveling next week, so I'll be out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The following week, I looked at room availability. It looks, there's a lot of meetings going on between selectmen and capital and ARPA and planning. So I was thinking, and we probably need a couple weeks after this to go through revenue projections, to actually have an understanding of what is going to be available. So I was thinking we'd set up meetings, Monday, March 20th. Monday doesn't, oh no, Wednesday, March 29th, and Tuesday, April 4th. And we might have people that can't make it on one or a given date, but as long as we have a quorum.
April 4th is a Tuesday.
Yes, Tuesday, sorry, yeah. So, and we'll want, because we'll have to get through the school, do the meet on revenue, what we actually have. If we have to refine any budgets, we're gonna have to have some candid discussions around that. Again, that, because we want to have everything finalized by April 17th, which is when I think the selectmen are meeting to vote on. April 17th, that's what I had, unless that's changed.
That's Patriots Day, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, that is Patriots Day.
Dan, can you repeat those dates for me,
Yes.
Brian? Sorry.
Monday, March 20th, Wednesday, March 29th, and Tuesday, April 4th. On Monday. I think Board of Health usually done by, aren't they quick? Yeah, we can do it the same time, same day as them. Thank you, though.
March 20th.
Yep. But that way, we'll come into the meeting on the 20th, and we should be able to start having some more candid discussions, and we can forward out information ahead of time. So everyone comes in and is ready, but I would say during the next 2 weeks then, to just go through everything, come up, if there's any questions, circulate them so we can get them to department heads.
So when are we talking about bringing the schools in? The 20th?
I think we'd bring them in on the 20th, yeah.
that's what I thought. Okay.
Because they'll have their meeting on the 7th, and then we'll have them in. So I'll reach out to them and ask for them to come in that night.
Then we'll get the projections for income, revenues,
Yep.
and the fund will
Yep.
start.
Yes. And we get to see what we can afford to do, which is always good. CPW, meeting. I believe that was all I had. Is there any, Charlie, did you have anything?
No, I sent you the numbers we got from the state for the governor's budget. It's not helpful on the town side, certainly. We're
No.
down $110,000. I mean, the veterans it's a good news, bad news thing in the sense of our veterans need less money, benefits in fiscal '22. That's good, and probably turned into some free cash because we probably had money left in the budget on June 30th for the veterans. The bad news is we get less in reimbursement. So it looks like we lost money. I mean, we spent less money, so we got less money. That's a good thing overall, but it's still, when we're calculating for this coming year, it's not helpful. And then, of course, the charter school money and things like that took a piece of the pie from us also. So
Right.
the 30-some-odd thousand we got of the unrestricted local aid, doesn't matter.
No.
Doesn't matter in the big picture when you got a $62 million budget. Schools did well, they got $600,000, so that will help. And it doesn't cover everything that, I know when we talked to Liz and John a few weeks ago, but at least it dents at a good deal, we'll see how things go.
It does, yeah. Yeah, that puts a good dent in what they had budgeted. Melanie? No, okay. Any open discussion? Or I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion?
Second the motion.
Motion by Dave, second by Lisa. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Karen doesn't wanna leave.